boys, this additional Saban kind of article, again, Chris Lowe, shout out. Chris Lowe got some access to some former Nick Saban assistants and former coaches, and they all had great stories like this one. When Lane Kiffin got to Alabama as the offensive coordinator, they used to do, and they still do at Alabama, and they still do at Georgia. They do a bunch of good-on-good periods, right? Mm-hmm. One offense versus the one's defense. And, Nick Saban don't like his defense to get beat, as most defensive-based coaches do not. And Lane, being the pestering human that he always was, wouldn't exactly call plays like you're supposed to call plays in these situations, right? Like, for example, if you're out in a good-on-good period or in a football game, in one singular drive, probably wouldn't call 2 double passes.
Yeah.
Or probably wouldn't call a double pass right after reverse, right? You probably wouldn't go about calling plays like this if you had some risk involved. But if you're just out there to make the defense feel embarrassed, you're going to do whatever you want. And that's what Lane Kiffin did one day. And one day showed up doing the double passes, doing the reverses, just absolutely obliterating Alabama's defense with no, repercussions at all, except for a stern ass chewing. They were watching film, and Nick Saban apparently sent all the coaches out of the room and just berated Lane Kiffin, just absolutely chewing his ass. How dare you, all the MFers, all that good stuff. So you know what he did, Kirby? The next day, he shows up to practice, lines up in the wishbone, and calls every single play under the eye. Whether it was 3rd and 8 and it was an automatic passing down, he's out there running daggum halfback ISO right down the throat. Gets a whole nother ass chewing from Saban. And Kiffin's like, well, I don't know what you want from me, buddy. I mean, I came out here doing my thing, and you don't like that one. And then I came out here and did your thing that you used to hire offensive coordinators to do, and you didn't like that one either. So what you want me to do? So much so that he got a nickname from Nick Saban, the nickname being PJ Funny Bunny. Apparently, PJ Funny Bunny was a child's book character that, quote, was a spoiled bunny who went around creating havoc. PJ Funny Bunny kind of looks like Lane Kiffin, if I'm being honest, to an extent, with the bow tie. Lane Kiffin, big bow tie guy. I mean, I could see it. PJ Funny Bunny. How you like that?
I love it. I think that story perfectly encapsulates exactly who Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban are as coaches, as people, as personalities. I think that's one of the better stories in that article.
PJ Funny Bunny.
I did in that same article too, though. I don't know if it's in that section, but a different section maybe from Lane. He did talk about like how it wasn't until that he became a head coach where he was like, now I understand why this dude was always all up on me, because now that I have sole responsibility of a program, I understand the frustrations that come with all of your assistants or anybody else in your program. He's like, now I get it. He said 10 years ago, I absolutely did not get it. I didn't understand why he was always all up on me, but then I had to apologize to him and tell him, like, I understand.
He compared it to how, like, once you have kids, you can really contextualize your own parents' relationships. And that he was like, well, I was just a shithead kid, and I needed some parenting right there. But, yeah, no, you're right. He managed to kind of mend the fences between him and Nick, despite the fact that he constantly continued to kind of poke him in the side, even as late as this last fall with some of his comments going into that football game. But it was nice to see in that article that Lane had apologized and gone about doing the things to correct the relationship and get back on good terms. Jimbo Fisher, however, has not. We found out very quickly in this article that Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban have not talked since before the sliced bread comments and before the he bought every player on his roster comments and before the I know where the bodies are buried comments. Basically, since then, Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher have not talked. I thought that was a pretty staunch revelation in this article today.
Yeah, it colored me shocked that Jimbo Fisher was stubborn about his relationship with Nick Saban.
Well, according to Jimbo, and I told you this before the show, I love these articles because, A, Jimbo never afraid to give a quote, ever at all. The other thing Jimbo not afraid to do, say whatever is on his damn mind. Like the fact that he is quoted in this article saying the reason him and Nick don't get along is because they're, quote, the same exact person. Jimbo Fisher walks around this planet thinking him and Nick Saban are cut from the same cloth. Why? Because they were born a holler over in West Virginia. That's it. That is the only tie these two individuals have. But Jimbo Fisher walks around this planet thinking he is Nick Saban 2.0. And that right there confirmed everything that I think I know about Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher definitely thinks very highly of Jimbo Fisher. I mean, to some degree, rightfully so. I mean, he's a national championship winning coach, had a great record, had a Heisman winning quarterback. But I think the last 5 or 6 years of Jimbo Fisher as a head coach really showed that him and Nick Saban are not on the same level
at all. There were a bunch of really, really good revelations in this. The basketball one I know you really resonated with, Jay Will. Saban played hoops until he was 68 when he was forced to have a hip replacement.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive right there. Out here, driving Ferraris, dipping the red or chewing the red man, and out here playing hoops until he's 68 when a forced hip replacement made him retire. My favorite part about the basketball stories, everybody's heard all the coach doesn't get fouled. Everybody's heard that he makes the rules. Everybody's heard all those stories. My favorite story and revelation out of this article today was that Lane Kiffin rightfully avoided all of these games because he had heard that, Saban just gets to do whatever the hell he wants. Yeah. And it's not really about competitiveness, that Saban wins all the games. And Kiffin was like, no, sir. The quote was, you got the wrong one. I'm not doing that. I know I'm going to go in there and talk way too much shit and probably get fired. So even in his Alabama days, he knew when not to step completely into the fire, but he always seemed to be standing on the coals.
Yeah, I think that relationship might have ended a little bit earlier if he had competed in those basketball games.
That's what it sounded like.
And then poor Derek Dooley just getting thrown to the fire, like basically duping himself, calling the story of when Nick Saban was like gassed. I mean, just needed a breather, and he called a timeout. But someone else on the court called. Derek Dooley thought someone else called timeout. And so then he's like, no, man, we don't call timeouts. So he was like, damn it, Derek, I'm gassed and I'm winded, man. I'll call a timeout whenever I want to. And
he said, I'm about to have a heart attack. I'll call a damn timeout whenever I want. So, yeah, he literally got to do whatever he wanted in those basketball games. There were some other really, really good revelations in this article, like when Kirby interviewed for the defensive backs coach job at LSU in 2004. The guy going out of the job, I forget his name, but it was the guy leaving to take a promotion elsewhere as a defensive coordinator. And Kirby just happened to pass him in happenstance, it sounded like, on the trail. And he basically asked him, like, hey, man, what's it like working for this Nick Saban character? Because he didn't know. And the guy leaving basically told him, those are dog years. And he was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, 1 year under Saban, it takes like 7 years off of your life because it's that bad. And so Kirby goes through this, interview process. Y'all know how Kirby is now, but even in 2004, he was probably way more addicted to work than he even is now. And so he goes through this interview process and watches these guys work, and he's like, what is this? What was this guy talking about? This seems like the place to be. This seems like, a good place to work. And he tells Saban this. He's like, dude, that guy told me something about dog years, that like working for you is 7 times as hard. And, ends up taking the job or whatever. And apparently Saban went into the locker room or the coach's office the next day and was like, which one of you dipshits told the guy we're trying to hire that it's like working dog years for me? But yeah, it kind of, even in 2004, it was an alignment between the two, that you're supposed to work at this like it is your addiction, like you are a fiend.
Yeah, it was actually Will Muschamp who called him and was like, bro, Nick Saban came into our office today and was like, who the heck told this guy that his dog years work for me? I thought it was also interesting that Kirby mentioned going into the interview process that everybody knows, like, that you're kind of getting further in the process when Miss Terry wants to meet you. He was like, I went to their house on Super Bowl Sunday, and I went to Miss Terry, and it was like, she's the one that has to give the final okay on hiring you. It's not Nick Saban, it's Miss Terry that has to okay the actual hire.
Yeah, it is funny to think about how much say Miss Terry had over the years. Just all the stories you've heard of Nick Saban and other coaches where it seems like Miss Terry was kind of the authority figure in some instances of that program. So,
just even in back in, did you flash that picture up there?
I did.
I want to dissect that thing. Throw that sucker back up on there. I don't know if I could have – I know I lived through this same time period. I know I was alive in 2004, but I could not imagine walking around in some pants like this.
That screams like starter. Z-starter, wasn't it called?
Oh, definitely starter pants.
Starter,
definitely starter pants. What do you think Kirby thought about wearing purple? Because that's a lot of purple.
That's a lot of purple.
That's not a little amount of purple. That's a lot.
Usually
of purple.
LSU does it right with like the combination of gold and purple. But yeah, just straight up purple pants with a gold stripe.
With the basic white long sleeve tee. Is he still rocking the visor? Do I see
He
that?
is rocking the visor.
Still rocking the visor. That's a dope picture coming right out of Tiger Stadium.
What do you think he's writing down?
Whatever Saban's telling him.
What do you think Saban's telling him?
We probably got to go see this 5-star right now. Whatever. It's probably recruiting based, as is always with these guys. It seems like everything revolves around recruiting. But yeah, that was a awesome little story to come out in this article. Another one that was very, very unique during the COVID season. He got COVID.
Oh yeah.
They rolled Mans in. First of all, he had all the cameras in the studio or in the locker room or the practice field. Excuse me.
Whoa.
Hey, yo. All the cameras in the practice facility, he had them wired and hardlined to a Zoom link so he could watch it from his office. And then at the end of practice, they rolled Mans out on a gurney, on a cart, and on a TV monitor and set him in front of the team. And he gave a post-practice speech, and here's the best part, and broke it down.
Yeah.
Get in here. How about that tide on 3?
Man.
Kind
Isn't
of like
that wild?
He's like Karen from SpongeBob.
Yeah.
No, have either of you watched Big Bang Theory before?
I have not.
I've seen it a couple times.
Well, there's this episode where the main character Sheldon, he gets scared of like all the germs and the like being sick out in the world, so he literally makes a mobile computer like a Karen from SpongeBob, and he puts himself on it. So when that happened, I photoshopped Nick Saban's face onto it, and I was like, this is how Nick Saban finna be rolling around. And I was right. So I affirmed my theory.
You ever seen Bubble Boy?
Yeah, with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Bubble Boy.
Stupid
Classic
movie, dude.
I think it's classic.
It's funny, but it's
yeah.
stupid.
I think it's funny. I can imagine Nick Saban Bubble Boy in it. That'd be cool. Did y'all have any other ones?
Yeah,
out
I
of this
think
article?
the one that stood out to me most was I think it was the 2017 national title. Afterwards,
You think it was 27 Natty?
Yeah,
You
I think
You
I think it
know.
was the one. The article has nothing to do with like that, but it's Brent Key talking about how after they win the Natty, they,
You went that one. Go ahead.
yeah, how Brent Key talking about how to win the Natty. Natty was obviously on Monday. They come back Tuesday. They have off. Wednesday they come in for a team meeting, and Saban comes in. All he says about it is like, "All right, good season. We overcame a lot. Let's get to work on recruiting. We're already behind on this." Like it just perfectly shows how, even in the highest of highs, like he didn't really relish in that at all, and that's why he had so much success. Because as soon as you win the first one, you're on to the next. Which I mean, it's kind of a hard way to live when you look at it, because you don't actually get to enjoy the moments you're in, but you just keep creating more ones. So
Yeah, Kirby one-upped him after his first title, saw 100 high schools in one day. He sent him and 9 staffers to see 10 schools apiece the day he got back from a Natty. That's just, you're a bit much, bro. You know what I mean? You're the guy who asked the teacher, did you forget that we had homework?
Yeah.
That's the kind of vibes that you get out of that extra go-getter work ethic. I thought the best story in this whole article, and Georgia fans might not love this one, but we've always heard Saban get credit for the quarterback change between Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa at halftime of the 2017 national title game. Well, come to find out in this article, Mike Locksley, who is now the head coach at Maryland, who was the co-offensive coordinator at the time, he was the passing games coordinator and the receivers coach. He was the one that right as halftime happens, the coaches get together first, and 9 times out of 10 when you're losing a game, the head coach comes up and goes, what the is going on? And what the do we need to change? Well, Mike Locksley apparently immediately said, hey, I think we should go to Tua. And then Saban was like, okay, you go tell him. And then Locksley went over there and handled the business. So I thought that was, you obviously have to give the sign off there. But we've always accredited Nick Saban for that being one of the best coaching decisions of all time. And all it really was trusting your coach, which is, it's a big step right there in that moment.
Yeah,
So
and
maybe-
what's even crazier to think about is that moment probably doesn't even happen if Jalen Hurts never gets sick before the semifinal
You're
game.
right, because they
what,
talk about Tua practicing.
Yeah, Locksley specifically mentions that when Tua was getting the first team reps while Jalen Hurts was sick and wasn't able to practice, that the ball never hit the field. It never touched the ground, and that he was that good in practice. And that's what made him think, maybe we need to give Tua a shot in this moment. And so if Jalen Hurts never gets sick, they probably never make the quarterback change in that game.
Yeah, so if Saban actually didn't make the decision to put Tua in, maybe he's not the GOAT. No, I'm just kidding.
Man, the flu created the Tua game. So you guys basically had your version of the Tua game that time you hosted a show by yourself. By the way, someone popped up in the comments the other day asking for another specific version of that.
Huh. I'd be down for that. I don't know if you would.
I don't know how we come in
Do
here
I
and say-
strike you as a guy who just, wants to make it all about himself?